Hello Cloud Growers and welcome to this lesson, a brief history of data storage. This lesson is intended to be a tongue-in-cheek lesson. Please don't take it too seriously, but equally watch it for what it is, a brief history as how we as a species got to the point of needing and using databases. I'll be using the internet principle of facts and accuracy, where both are optional. I want to start at the very beginning, back when human beings started to store data. Okay, so maybe that's a little too far, although you could argue that it is when information was created if you believe those science people. But we weren't around to use it at that time, so it would have been hard to store or manipulate much of anything at that stage. So let's skip forward slightly. The sun forms, and we have some progress. After a brief interlude, there is some light and heat, both of which are pretty useful for the creation of modern-day database platforms, but it's still too advanced for anyone to be crafting SQL queries or working with super scalable key-value stores, unless we count aliens, and I don't count aliens. That's beyond the scope of this course. So we move on to the Earth forming, and this helps. Our planet begins to form. Initially it's pretty toasty, but over time it starts to settle down to be our temperate abode in the universe. At some stage, the random chemicals decide to get their act together, and we have early life. Now we're getting there, but short of eating, swimming and breeding, these little guys aren't about to up and invent a data storage mechanism. Unless you arrived here accidentally instead of Discovery Channel, we better shift this up a gear to something useful. So we move on to early humans, and now we're a little bit more advanced. We invent fire to keep warm at night and to keep some pests away. So what next? Now we move on to cave paintings, and believe it or not, they represent the earliest form of storage. Not what you might call complex information, but they represented ideas and concepts which other humans could understand and use. Maybe this guy is trying to show everyone about these cool horse things he's recently discovered. I can see a colour equals brown attribute somewhere. But in all seriousness, this represents a breakthrough in human ability, and it's worth making a point of that. It's a good job we had some early inspiration, as in a way this horse is likely to be the early forefather of DynamoDB. Too much? Let's go to the next slide. So what happened between our horse painting and the 20th century? Not surprisingly, quite a lot. I could show it all to you, but that would be death by slides, and you're not paying us to take time away from your databasing. Let's compress it down a little. First, we carved some things on stones. We enjoyed that, but it went out of fashion quickly. Stone worked and early man didn't like change, so we upgraded to carving slightly more letter-like things into stone. Writing alone was pretty boring, so we added some pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, so maybe this was an early form of compression. Now, writing on stone was pretty hard and slow, so some pretty smart human beings invented parchment and then paper. And then suddenly it became a lot easier to store ideas. We wrote, and things didn't change that much until we fast forward to 1398. This is when Johann Gutenberg was born, and this changed everything. Gutenberg invented mechanical, movable type printing and the printing press. He pretty much kick-started the printing revolution. And so what, you may say? Well, I hope you didn't say that, but if you did, this, more than anything else until recent times, kick-started the data generation stage of human evolution. Printing was initially used to make Bibles, helping to spread religion across the world and allowing Bibles to be made much faster, cheaper, and in higher volumes. Now, while you may or may not be religious, religion in the day was a huge financial industry and provided the perfect growth catalyst for printing. Printing allowed books to be produced en masse. No longer did they have to be handwritten, and along with education, it facilitated the mass spread of information faster than could have been possible before its invention. Early newspapers became possible, allowing news to be made available to the masses. Communication became easier, cheaper, and more people consumed and produced information. So let's fast forward another few hundred years. We invent computers. They are initially big, hot, expensive, and only available to an elite few. Data is stored onto and read from clumsy punch cards where holes are stamped in paper. It was slow, expensive, and prone to error. In short, it worked, but not amazingly well. We made progress with our data production. We invented printers, the scourge of IT professionals everywhere. But printers had a huge inherent problem. People used them to print. We still had enough trees, and staff were still amazingly proficient at ignoring directives not to print. In fact, humans printed a lot, and this started to generate lots of paper containing lots of information stored in rooms, very, very large rooms. Over the next few decades, this improved, and we made things a little smaller. A little. and we improved the ability to input and output information. Now I'm going to leap forward to the last 50 years because it's here when databases were created. All industry sectors from minerals, healthcare, government, airlines, retail, and many others started producing and consuming information at an alarming rate. It became incredibly difficult to effectively use this information in its paper form. Mainframes were already around, and the personal computer was on its way, although people didn't know it at the time. The world needed a solution, and so databases were created and refined. Something else happened between traditional databases and now. Something which is still happening, changing the very fabric of society and presenting very real and significant challenges in terms of information storage and usage. The internet happened. The internet is perhaps the single biggest achievement yet for humankind. It created a massive increase in information volume. Information is created, exchanged, and consumed at an ever-increasing rate. We have created more information in the last 20 years than perhaps the previous history of mankind. I hope by now you see why things have happened the way they did, why there was a real and an urgent need for data management platforms. Some of this may have happened before you were born or while you were still young and unaware of the amazing adventures available in the world of databases. Either way, it happened, and that evolution is still happening, maybe at an even faster rate. In the next lesson, I'll talk to you about database fundamentals. I'll show you how it all started, and I'll introduce relational database services for those students who haven't been exposed to them. For now, that's the end of this brief introduction lesson. Please don't judge. I'm not a historian. This lesson is nothing more than a tongue-in-cheek brutalization of real history to get through billions of years in a few-minute lesson. So please give me some credit. Thanks for listening, Cloud Gurus. If you have any questions that don't involve history corrections, feel free to reach out directly or via the Cloud Guru forums. Otherwise, feel free to complete this lesson and move on to the next.